In a hospital in Japan, two women watch the entrance exam of a little boy. One of the women is the mother of the child, Namikawa, and the other is Matsuri, a 20-year-old woman who has recently discovered that she only has 10 years left. While in the hospital, she meets Namikawa, who also has a terminal disease, and they become fast friends. Namikawa already has a family, with a husband and child, and she lived her life to the fullest. She isn't sad or depressed that she's going to pass away. She's glad that she could experience happy moments with her husband and child, and that's enough for her. Before she passes away, she gifts Matsuri a camera so that she can record her happy moments. Matsuri doesn't have the same mindset as Namikawa. In a wheelchair and tubes, she doesn't think she can have an enjoyable life. A husband or even a boyfriend is out of the picture for her. She will never have children. The dreams she has as a teenager, of going to college and having a career, aren't as important as they used to be. She can't see the point of going through life when she already knows it will end quickly. Watching Namikawa passing away and the suffering of her family sets Matsuri's mind. She is going to spend those 10 years without getting closer to anyone but her family. 2 years go by and Matsuri is released from the hospital. Her life had been on standby. She hasn't left the hospital in 2 years, and even her bedroom at home is exactly as she left it. It's as if nothing has changed. For a moment, she can almost feel like that young, hopeful girl again. The feeling doesn't last long because the minute she finds her notebook filled with her research about her disease, she remembers her condition. Everything becomes bleak and the pictures of her teenage years, which show how happy she used to be, are a painful reminder of her cruel reality. Matsuri tries not to show her depression to her family or friends. She goes out with her college friends to celebrate her return. And she has a good time, until her friends start talking about their lives. They have already graduated from college. They have boyfriends and are working to build their careers. It's hard not to feel jealous or self-pity for her situation. Her friends tell her that she should find a boyfriend and a job. But she sees no point in falling in love only to break the person's heart by passing away. Her friends would never understand her, and she feels very lonely, even though she's surrounded by people. After dinner, Matsuri is left with her friend, now. She wonders if Matsuri is still writing her novels, but Matsuri hasn't written anything since she was admitted to the hospital. She has no inspiration or will to write anymore. Now offers her a job at the newspaper she works at, and tries to cheer Matsuri up so she doesn't give up on her wishes for the future. Matsuri is reluctant to accept a job, but now isn't in a hurry. When she arrives home, Matsuri receives a letter from her high school inviting her to their first-class reunion after graduation. Her sister suggests that she go, and jokes that she might even find love there. Once again, Matsuri insists she doesn't want to date or fall in love with anyone. The mood in the house gets somber when news that Japan was going to host the Olympics in 2020. The previous late talk about meeting her classmates again and finding love seems irrelevant. Matsuki is reminded again of how her days are numbered, and that she won't be able to experience a lot of things. There's one thing she's still able to do. She decides that going to her high school meeting is not a bad thing, mainly because her classmates have no idea that she's sick. When she arrives at the restaurant they are meeting at, she gets anxious. It's only the second time she is seeing people out of her family after her hospitalization, and she has a secret that she's afraid they are going to find out. She stays outside the restaurant, seeing her classmates happily meeting each other again. She hesitates to enter and wonders if going there was a good idea. A man approaches the restaurant and recognizes her. Matsuri was quite popular back at school. She was pretty and fun, so everyone knew who she was. In turn, Matsuri doesn't recognize the man. He seems bothered by it, but before they can talk more, Matsuri is whisked away by her former friends. Dinner isn't bad. Matsuri has to lie about her occupation and she is more introspective than usual, but people don't question her. She's even invited for drinks. She also finds out that the guy she didn't recognize is Kazuto Manabe. Nobody knows much about Kazuto and his life. His classmates call him mysterious, but he is just shy and quiet. Kazuto also resides and works in Tokyo, and he is also invited for drinks along with Matsuri. A time capsule from when they were just 14 is opened and they all receive the messages their teenage selves wrote. In her letter, 14-year-old Matsuri wrote that she was excited about starting high school, and her wishes for the future. She wants to have a job, a boyfriend, and maybe become a novelist. Reading that is like someone dropped a bucket full of ice on her head. Her good mood plummets, and she feels depressed again. It's hard to be reminded of things she had forgotten about while fighting for her life. On the other side of the table, Kazuto also doesn't seem happy about the message in his time capsule. He's so upset that he starts drinking a lot. At the end of the meeting, while their classmates happily walk to a bar, Matsuri is waiting for her father to grab her when Kazuto appears. He's wasted and can barely walk straight. Matsuri helps him out and Kazuto explains that it's been a long time since he has spoken to other people. He was so nervous that he drank more than he was used to. He shyly tells Matsuri that she probably doesn't remember him, but he remembers her perfectly. She helped him once and he felt grateful for her kindness. He isn't even upset that she can't remember him or what she did to help him. She was popular, everyone liked her, and she had many friends. Kazuto was the shy and introspective kid in the classroom, the one that is always forgotten by his peers. Kazuto leaves Matsuri after saying that he had a lot of fun and goes home. He resides alone in Tokyo, in a messy apartment. He's a hoarder and a loner. He has no friends, and his contact with his family is minimal. They don't know it yet, but he and Matsuri have some things in common, particularly their fear of living. After the meeting, Matsuri decides to look for a job. She felt useless and embarrassed for lying to her classmates about having a job. The only problem is that Matsuri has no experience and she dropped out of college because of her hospitalization, so it's difficult to find a good job. Kazuto feels similarly, and in a moment where he feels desperate and sad, he does something drastic. He jumps out. Matsuri receives the news from another classmate and ends up going to the hospital to visit him. Not even Kazuto's parents visit him in the hospital. Instead, they called his classmate, Takeru, to go there and help him out with whatever he needed. When Takeru asks why he tried to hurt himself like that, Kazuto doesn't know what to say. It's hard to explain his feelings when it got to the point where he's so miserable that he doesn't want to. He simply replies that his parents don't want any relationship with him and that he lost his job recently. Matsuri quietly listens to him. She's surprised when he mentions the high school meeting and how everyone but him is living life happily. It's the same feeling she had when she went home that day, that the world was moving on with their lives, but she was stuck, either in the past or her head. At the same time, she feels angry at Kazuto because despite their feelings being similar, their situation is different. She wishes she had the opportunity to spend her life without any worries about passing away. She wishes she could have had the life her 14-year-old self imagined. Kazuto is lonely and depressed, but he can change his situation. He tried to take, and that's unforgivable to Matsuri. She can't take it anymore. She quietly tells Kazuto that he's unfair and leaves the hospital in tears. A few days later, Matsuri has to go to the hospital for her routine checkup. Kazuto is still there because of his injuries, and he ends up seeing her leaving with her mother. He hasn't talked to her again after her outburst when visited him, and it's surprising to see her there. He wonders if she is alright and decides to invite her for drinks with Takeru. Matsuri surprises herself and accepts it. Takeru is the one who talks the most through the night. He's not somber or morose like Kazuto and Matsuri. He's also the one to suggest they meet because he wants Kazuto and Matsuri to make peace. He even advised Kazuto to apologize to Matsuri, even though neither of them knew why she got so upset. Takeru leaves them alone and they awkwardly apologize to each other. Kazuto feels bad about his words and his attempt to take after seeing Matsuri in the hospital. He thinks her mother is sick and that's why she was so sensitive to seeing him wasting his life like that. Matsuri doesn't correct his assumption. She doesn't want anyone from her past to know about her disease and treat her differently. After this first awkward moment, they get along for the rest of the evening and Matsuri has a lot of fun. They go to the train station together and have an opportunity to speak more privately. As they pass through a cherry blossom garden, Matsuri takes out her camera and starts filming it, which is odd for Kazuto. She explains that she enjoys filming happy moments in her life to leave as a memory. She films Kazuto and wonders what he wants to do with his life from then on. He tries to think of something, and seeing another person as lost as her instills a sense of kinship with Matsuri. She tells him that he better do his best because that's what she will do too. Unbeknownst to Kazuto, he helped Matsuri to understand that even though she thought her life was unfair and sad, other people were going through difficult times too. She isn't as lonely as she thought before and Kazuto might be exactly what she needs. Days go by after she meets with Kazuto. Matsuri accepts Nao's proposal to work with her and becomes a writer. Kazuto also takes her suggestion of giving his best and finds another job at a bar. He even organizes his apartment and throws all his trash away. Things are looking good for both of them. They also start hanging out more together. They go out for drinks, to the beach with their friends, and to picnics. Slowly, Matsuri starts seeing Kazuto in a different light. Her life gets more excitement than she had in years. Going out and having fun without worrying about her disease is what she needed. It distracts her from commiserating about her fate all the time. A year goes by like this. Matsuri seems fine most of the time. The issue with distractions is when you realize that you weren't paying attention to something important. Whenever it dawns on her that she's still sick and with her days counted, she gets depressed again. It's not a constant feeling anymore, but it's still there. One day, when Matsuri and Kazuto are out with their friends at a festival, he tries to hold her hand. It's the first step either one of them gives toward their feelings, and Matsuri would have accepted it if she didn't remember her promise of not finding love. She likes Kazuto, he's a great person and he helped with her loneliness. It's exactly for that reason that she refuses to hurt him like that. She drops his hand. Kazuto feels sad. He thought for sure that they were going somewhere. They weren't. 3 years pass by. Matsuri's sister gets married and moves out of their family house. It's a beautiful wedding. Matsuri tries to hide her pain with a smile. The wedding served as a reminder of her condition and how that would never happen to her. To make things worse, she's in love with Kazuto. After years of steady friendship, they had gotten closer. Kazuto is also in love with her, but whenever he tries anything, she rejects his advances. He doesn't know about her condition or her hidden depression. Her disease is also getting worse as time goes by. She has to change her medication and starts feeling weaker. Kazuto isn't willing to let her go without receiving a clear answer from her. He invites her to talk and finally confesses his feelings. Matsuri gets upset because he doesn't understand and she doesn't want to explain. She's insecure that if they become something else than friends, he will regret it after she eventually passes away. Matsuri gets so nervous that she starts feeling bad and has to leave. She passes out in the middle of the park and Kazuto has to take her to the hospital in a hurry. There, he finally learns that Matsuri has a condition that makes her terribly sick. He tries talking to her when she wakes up, but Matsuri raises a wall between them. She knows that if she gives in to Kazuto, he will stop living for her. She'll become his everything and then, when she's gone, he'll be alone again. Kazuto is too sensible to lose someone like that. She doesn't want him to be depressed again when she passes away, not after all the work he put into becoming the man he is. Matsuri tells him that she doesn't want to see him again and to never come back. Kazuto does as she asks. When he leaves, Matsuri starts crying compulsively for having to let her favorite person go. It's not fair. Matsuri's depression catches up with her after she stops talking to Kazuto. Her family tries to transfer her from hospitals to look for another treatment, but she denies it. She doesn't want to get her hopes up only to be crushed with disappointment after. She puts on her mask again and even accepts to go on a blind date with the person who overcame a heart disease. Still, no matter how much she smiles and fake laughs with her friends, she's feeling terrible. Kazuto isn't doing so well either. He loves Matsuri and can't let go of her. His boss gives him advice about it and he goes after her. He searches all over the neighborhood, not knowing where she was. Meanwhile, Matsuri eats her feelings away and ends up throwing up. They finally meet again when she's going home and Kazuto confesses his feelings one last time. He tells her how much his life changed after he met her. He didn't have any objectives or purpose in life. Matsuri was the one to make him want to be alive and do well in life. For that reason, he won't ever be able to let go of her. He asks her to accept his feelings, and Matsuri, not having the strength to deny his love again, accepts. They finally start dating. Their relationship gives Matsuri the will to look for another treatment that may help her stay alive longer. She also starts writing a novel about her life. Days turn into months and soon 2 years have passed. Matsuri and Kazuto have a beautiful relationship, full of love, acceptance, and understanding. They are completely in love with one another, but Matsuri isn't getting any better. She feels it every day that passes. Sometimes, she stares at Kazuto and wonders what is going to happen to him when she's gone. Her smiles start getting more difficult to appear. Her body is weak. She knows the time is coming. Kazuto thinks everything is fine because Matsuri hides her true feelings. He's even thinking about proposing to her, even though her years are almost over. He's hopeful that things will change by some miracle. Matsuri finishes her novel and hands it to Nao to publish. She also tells her doctor that he can use her body for experiments when she has passed so that he can try and find a cure. Matsuri and Kazuto go snowboarding in the mountains. While they are having fun, Kazuto accidentally drops the engagement ring he bought for her and Matsuri sees it. Kazuto gets on his knees and declares that as long as she is with him, he feels like he can do anything. Matsuri watches him with a soft smile on her face. Despite knowing that her days are almost over, it's still a great feeling for the man she loves to propose to her. She makes a joke that she can't marry him because he's lame and they laugh. When they return to their cabin and Kazuto is already sleeping, Matsuri cries her eyes out in the bathroom. She feels sorry for them in their tragic love story. She loves Kazuto so much and her biggest wish is to accept his proposal. To have a big wedding with her family and friends as witnesses of their happiness. To constitute a family with him one day and pass away of old age. She wants to have it all. That's why it's so hard to let go. The following day, early in the morning, Matsuri packs her bags and leaves without saying goodbye to Kazuto. He wakes up when he hears her close the door and instantly goes after her. He quickly asks why she's leaving, worried that he did something that upset her. Matsuri smiles in sadness and tells him that it isn't his fault, but hers. She lied to him about the severity of her disease. This whole time, Kazuto had no idea that she could pass away at any given moment. He thought it was something she could control with medicine. Kazuto has no idea what to say. He's so confused and scared. The ground has been swept from under him, and he doesn't have anywhere to hold. He starts crying and wonders why Matsuri. It's funny how many times she asked herself that same question. It made no sense. She apologizes to Kazuto and confesses that before him, she thought about passing away faster. She didn't want to wait 10 miserable years for her to go. After she met Kazuto, though, he gave her the will to stay alive. With him, she didn't feel bored or miserable. She was just happy. Unfortunately, there was no future for them anymore. She knew that. She had to let him go so that he has time to move on. and she can accept her fate again. If he stays with her, she won't want to go. Her last wish for him is that he spends his life to the fullest and moves on from her. For the last time, she thanks him for not giving up on her and for giving her amazing years together. Then, without looking back, Matsuri leaves a destroyed Kazuto behind. When she gets home, Matsuri finally lets go of her constant mask of happiness in front of her family. She cries to her mother that she wants to be alive for longer. She wants to experience motherhood and get married. Things that she will never be able to do. Ever since she learned of her disease and that she would pass away young, Matsuki tried to have a shallow life. A life without attachments to anyone, so that when the day came, she wouldn't regret anything. Kazuto changed that for her. With him, she was happy. She was alive. With him, she became afraid of passing away. She could see a beautiful life with Kazuto, one that she would have been very happy with and that will never come to pass. A year later, Matsuri is hospitalized again. She's bedridden and weak, but still editing her book so it can be published. Kazuto becomes the proud owner of a pub and is still trying to move on from Matsuri. He even names his pub after her name. His boss tells him that he should tell her that he did it for her. Kazuto is afraid of meeting her again after a year. He's afraid of what he's going to see. Matsuri finishes her book at the same time her sister tells her she's pregnant. Matsuri wonders if she will at least be able to hold her nephew or niece before she goes. During the opening of Kazuto's pub, Nao gives him a copy of Matsuri's book for him to read before it goes public. He has no idea that she wrote a novel, so it's surprising to him. Meanwhile, Matsuri is at the hospital watching her videos for the last time. As she watches the good moments with her friends, family, and Kazuto, she deletes the videos. The only one she isn't able to delete is the video from the first day she went out with Kazuto, and she filmed him for the first time. In it, she asks Kazuto not to think about hurting himself again and to do his best. As she watches this last video, she starts crying quietly. Seeing Kazuto so young and scared of life, just the way she had been too, makes her heart clench in pain. He has come so far, and she's proud of the man he became. It's hard not to think about his future and the fact that she won't be in it anymore. Kazuto is going to continue living. He will find another woman to love someday, and he will get married and have children. He will be an amazing father. One day, he will look back and think about her fondly, not painfully. That's all Matsuri wishes for. Her breath gets short as her body gives up. Matsuri's last thoughts were of Kazuto, and how their life could have been if she wasn't sick. They would have traveled a lot. She would have gotten married in a beautiful dress, like a princess. They would have had a baby girl and watched her grow healthy and happy. Sadly, it wasn't meant to be. At the end of his shift, Kazuto finally gets the chance to read the book Nao brought him. The book is a heartfelt and sad account of the last 10 years of Matsuri's life. For the first time, Kazuto has a peek at what was going through Matsuri's mind while they were together. When he finishes reading it, he decides to go after Matsuri and talk to her again. He would beg her to give him another chance if necessary because he couldn't bear the thought of not living the rest of her life with her. It doesn't matter if it would hurt. He only wanted to be with her. Matsuri makes it through the night, but she's in bad shape. Kazuto cries when he sees her lying still on the bed. He tells her about his pub and how he named it after her. While he's speaking, Matsuri hears his voice and opens her eyes. He repeats to her that she gave her best so that she can rest easily. Matsuri smiles at him. After she passes away, Matsuri's book becomes a bestseller in Japan. Kazuto still misses her, and he takes up her habit of filming moments of his life. One day, as he is going home after buying her book, he passes through the same cherry blossom garden, where Matsuri filmed him for the first time. The trees are in full bloom, and it's so beautiful that he decides to film it. A sudden gust of wind blows the cherry blossoms over him, and he has a vision of what could have been with Matsuri if she had been well. They were walking in the park, holding hands, and Matsuri was filming him with a big smile on her face. It's a beautiful sight, and despite his grief, Kazuto feels slightly better. The movie is based on the real life of Ruka Kosaka, who passed away in 2017.